Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, where our focus is on building leaders and transforming culture. My name is Cory Lee, and in each episode, I aspire to ignite something on the inside of you that encourages you to grow yourself and to make an impact on the world around you. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show. Welcome back to the Cory Lee Show, y'all. Today, I got a super exciting conversation coming your way. New friend, his name is Benny Fisher. He lives in the Pittsburgh area, and we connected on LinkedIn, I guess, several months ago. And one of the things that stood out to me about him is, one, he's an entrepreneur. He's a CEO, but his tagline there says, leading with love and authenticity to inspire people to find their true purpose. And I like that. And he says he is on a mission to make a positive impact on the world. He helps business owners who are trying to grow and transform their business, but not only their business and their life. You guys know I'm all about that. I'm all about helping other people grow their business, their all that kind of good stuff, but not at the expense of their faith, their family, or their fitness. And so, man, Benny, welcome to the Cory Lee Show.
Thanks, Cory. This is a great opportunity, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I know you've got a lot going on. You're CEO of a business. You've also got a podcast. You keynote speaker you're talking about at EOS conference. And so, man, that's awesome. That's exciting. And that's kind of where you are today. But take us on the journey. How did you get to where you are today? And just love to hear your story.
Well, I grew up in Midwest Ohio, right? So in a very, I would say we grew up kind of not poor, but like maybe lower middle class, I would say. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 5. They both ended up getting remarried when I was 7. My mom was very strict Baptist, right? And so we grew up in the Baptist church. I got saved when I was 7 years old. I remember being at Sunday night church, and I remember that feeling of the Holy Spirit entering my heart as a little child. And I remember how beautiful and how amazing that experience was. I always thought life was just so full of color and opportunity, and like I always just felt like life was like heaven, right? And I was in for a rude awakening because over the next probably 30 years of my life, I experienced what I would like to consider hell. And, I got diagnosed when I was like 8 or 9 years old with ADHD. Teachers didn't really know what to do with me. I had a lot of energy. My parents didn't really know what to do with me. They were just trying to survive and trying to make a living. I had I had 2 little sisters, and I always never felt like I had a place, right? Like I was like around people, but I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. And so I struggled a lot. And sometimes I would act out. Sometimes I would be everybody's best friend. Sometimes I would be too many people's best friend, and sometimes that would come back to bite me. And got bullied in school, got picked on. Getting out of high school was barely, like, I barely got out of high school. I feel like I got in trouble a lot. Just stupid stuff, talking too much in class. Sometimes I would just do stupid kid things, right? Pressure was back in the late 90s. I graduated high school in 1999. And so the pressure back then was like, hey, to go to college, right? That's what everybody was doing. That's what all my friends were doing at school. My parents weren't really college people. They never, they didn't know how to apply to colleges for me. They didn't know how to get loans for me or anything like that. And so I thought that's what I needed to do. So I basically worked through high school and saved up enough money to pave my own way to go to community college. And I was there for about 3 weeks. And then I realized it was just like high school and didn't see much of a purpose in it. And so I stopped going. And I saw an ad in the car dealership, an ad in the newspaper for a car dealership ad, and said you could make $100,000 a year. And growing up my whole life, that's all my family talked about was not having enough money, right? Not having enough money, man. If we could just have this, man, if we could just have that. Now, keep in mind, we're going to church every Sunday, right? And, God will provide. And I'm hearing these mixed messages, right? And but all I heard was, got to go out and make money. Basically, that's what I said. Like, oh, I got to go make money, right? That's when people will be proud of me. That's when I'll be somebody, right? When I go make money. And so I went on that journey and I did really well at selling cars. I was 18 years old. But what happened was when I had a bunch of money, more money than I ever knew that what was possible, then I would like not work for a couple months, right? And then I would end up getting fired, right? Or I'd have some ideas I'd get my next job and I'd have ideas on how to do things differently or how to network, right? Because back then at the car dealership, you have to sit in this fishbowl, this aquarium, with big glass everywhere, and you're locked in this cage. And I'm like, is it possible that I go out into the community and like figure out how I can sell cars out there? Because I'm not waiting here at this dealership all day. Well, they didn't like all those ideas. And so I would get fired. I got fired like 5 or 6 different times. And so I just felt again that I wasn't worthy. I wasn't wanted. And it was pretty lonely. Ended up trying to do mortgages for a little period of time. I sold Verizon cell phones, Blackberries back in the day. And I was running out of corporate opportunities to make something out of myself because I thought that was the only way to be successful was like go get a corporate job. And I was at a party one night and I had a couple drinks and I never did any drugs before. I was 26 years old, never did a hard drug ever in my life because I was always afraid, right? Like, that's the Baptist in me, they told me we shouldn't do drugs, right? For some reason, drinking, like I could justify drinking, but I couldn't justify doing drugs. I guess everyone's got their own thing. And but that night I tried drugs for the first time, and it actually brought a stillness to me that I had never experienced before. And I felt really good, and I wanted more of that, right? And so I started to indulge in that. Ended up starting to sell drugs. I ended up quitting my corporate job and started this nightlife, party life, and I wasn't very good at it. I can tell you that. I spent all my money. I went bankrupt. I got evicted from my apartment. I lived in a car for 3 days because I was too proud to tell my mom what was going on. Started couch surfing, got back on my feet. Still tried the drug game. Ended up getting robbed at gunpoint, pistol whipped over my head, left for dead. Should have died then. God somehow saved me. He was with me the whole time. I know that now, but didn't realize that then. But again, because I had no future, I had no compelling vision for my life, I went back to still selling drugs like a knucklehead. And eventually, a year later, that all came to a crashing halt when the FBI raided my townhouse. And then I had to go tell my mom. And I got back into church, right? And I did community service at the church. Funny enough, at my church, Canton Baptist Temple, I was able to. They wanted all the sermons, all the old sermons, they wanted on the web. And because I have like a passion for all that, I was able to do that as my community service. Luckily, I was spared from going to prison, but I did have the 2 felonies on my record. And I was living in my sister's basement, which was, that was tough enough. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was live in my sister's basement because she told me how much she was helping me. But my uncle gives me a call up. He was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and he said, "Hey, I just started a commercial roofing company, and I'd love for you to come help me with sales and marketing. I know you're a good kid. I know you need another shot at life." I was working at this call center making $9 an hour, and it was not where I wanted to be, man. It was pretty miserable. But I also didn't think I had a future, right? 2 felonies on my account. Who's going to want me? I'm kind of like a little bit of a rejected piece of trash on the side of the road. So here he comes. He calls me up. I moved to Pittsburgh. I had a credit score of like 550 or something like that. Terrible credit score. I owed my uncle $1,200 because he paid off my fines to get me to be able to leave the state. And he wrote a letter to the court. My mom said, "Hey, you might not want to do that. What if he can't pay you?" And I was like, "Hey, I can't stay here." I said, like, I got to go somewhere. So moved to Pittsburgh, started to learn about what small business was like. And I got to learn from my uncle a lot of good things. Also learned from my uncle some things that I probably would do differently. But I learned the roofing industry, right? I learned what it was like to work with other business owners, what it was like to work with employees. I was pretty much jack of all trades. I would run around. I would do sales, marketing. Sometimes he even had me up on the roof, like taking garbage away. So I really learned a lot of good things. Ended up getting married, had a kid. But my uncle would always tell me to stop selling roofs as it got closer to the wintertime because they couldn't get all the work done. Well, I would get bored because there wasn't like a whole lot of stuff for me. So I started helping small business owners from the Chamber of Commerce with their Facebook page because like 2012, 2013, like Facebook, I was trying to get to know people in Pittsburgh because I didn't know anybody. And so I was building a little brand on Facebook. These guys were interested. They were paying me a few $100, but it wasn't like enough money to like quit my job or do anything with it. And so 2015 comes along and my uncle decides I'm getting ready to go on vacation and with my family. It was my first family vacation. Got the car packed up, heading to the beach, and he says, "Hey, I need you to stay back. I need you to stay at a job site. Send the wife and kid to the vacation. They'll be fine." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that." I said, that's because that's what he always used to do.
Mhm.
Because he was that small business owner that never could, like, he always had to be around, right, to put out all the fires. And so I just took a stand and I sent him a text back. I said, I'm not going. He's like, well, I think you should sell roofs for someone else. So here I am in 2015. I had just bought my first house with every dollar I had. I going on this vacation. I didn't have a job. I have a little 1-year-old baby that I was, now a dad and having to try to take care of. And I basically was at a crossroads and I said, you know what? I think I can take everything I've learned about sales my whole life and customer service, take everything I've been learning about this marketing thing, from a guy named Gary V on social media, which was really cool, and everything I've been learning about roofing, and I can just make it all better, right? And I'll put all these ingredients together, and out pops a baby called the Big Fish Contracting Company. We call it Big Fish because my last name's Fisher, and I'm not a small guy. And so that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey, but it wasn't that easy. The first year I was kind of by myself. It was just me and a crew. It wasn't too bad there because I could control everything. But as I started to hire people to help me with sales and admin and accounting and project management, it got to become a lot. Trying to be a husband, trying to be a father, trying to be a business person. I ended up starting to do drugs again. And it would have been about 6 years that I was drug free, and during that time. And I ended up overdosing on fentanyl in 2017. And I was dead as a doornail. And it took one of my best friends happened to be picking me up for a fantasy football draft, happened to pop into my house, my wife sent him upstairs, and I was on the floor dead. He started to try to do CPR. I wasn't waking up. They called 911. Luckily, I had just moved into a house that was 4 minutes away from the hospital. And by the grace of God, they were able to pump me with the Narcan. And here I am today. And so I am full of life, full of fire, but it took me many years. That was in 2017. We're in 2024. I wasn't really aware on how to start really effectively changing my life until 2020. During COVID, that was another God pause moment. I looked around and didn't like the life that I had created. Didn't it was a life full of reactions. It felt like. And I realized I was in a marriage that was not, that God was not honoring. We got into a marriage that, for lots of different reasons. And I was like, you know what? I think I got to end this. And that was a tough decision because I had a little boy at home. But I did that. And then also at the business, I had some guy helping me run the business by that point because business consultants had come in to try to help me fix my business because I thought the business was my problem, even though it was me that was the problem. And so, but I learned a lot, but I had this guy that was running my company that wasn't very good. And so I never even wanted to go back to work. And so that summer of 2020, I'm living, I'm not really wanting to go in the office. I'm trying to, I finalized my divorce and I ended up meeting a girl. And I thought, I'm not worthy enough to be anybody's husband or partner ever again. Cause I am just full of shame and guilt and lots of bad things. And I told her that thinking that she would run away. Well, when I told her my skeleton story, she actually came closer and she changed my life. And, I get emotional talking about it because she was really the first person that knew all the bad shit about me, right? But still loved me for who I was. And so began nurturing a relationship with her. And then a book came along because again, business, I didn't want to go back to work, but I was ready to go back to work. And I read this book called Rocket Fuel, an EOS book by Gino Wickman. And then I started to implement EOS. And that really that took me from salesperson in my own company to basically CEO, right? And I really learned what I really needed to do to kind of have the right people in the right seats, have a compelling vision for my company. I put together a leadership team, and in the summer of 2021, after about 6 months of putting in EOS, I thought that my life was perfect. Me and Brittany were together for about a year. My business was taking off. I had the right team. I was like living the dream. And I was on a golf course on a hot summer day in 2021. And I was playing at this country club in a member tournament. And I'll never forget, I hit a ball out of bounds, like I usually do, because I'm not that good at golf. And I'm out of the hole and I'm sitting under this tree waiting for the guys that finish putting. And I get a call from my sister, and she never calls me. So I picked up the phone just because I thought I should, and she told me that our little brother died. And so my mom and my stepdad had a little boy who was about 12 years younger than me, and I was about 7 years old when I moved out of the house. So I didn't really know him that well. I mean, we hung out, and he looked up to me and stuff like that. But I had lived in Pittsburgh for many years at that time, but he had gotten himself into a drug deal and got himself shot and killed in in a suburban neighborhood in his apartment. But, he was down on the parking lot of his apartment. He had his little baby upstairs. And on that drive over, I remember talking to God and thinking like, man, like, why do these things keep happening in my life? Why did you take him out? Why am I still here? And I realized then that I had a bigger purpose for my life. It wasn't just that I was the CEO of a roofing company and we're going to try to go to $50 million a year and all this revenue and all this profit and stuff like that. I realized that my true calling was to witness to people and share people my testimony about how Jesus has changed my life and about how that you can like actually be set free. Right. And so then I just started, that's when I started the podcast. That's when I started getting opportunities to share my story, because I was always afraid and ashamed to share my story. So I appreciate you letting me have this first few minutes of the show to share that story with you. And then one thing led to another, man. And then people would start inviting me to speak on different stages and, more podcasts. And then I started helping one of my buddies who has a contracting education company who trains entrepreneurs on how to do marketing in their roofing business. And so I partnered up with him because my business pretty much runs the day to day by itself. I spend about 2 hours a month running Big Fish Contracting, just checking in on the people, the numbers, making sure everybody's good. Because I really have a passion working with other entrepreneurs. And so, whether it's branding and marketing training or sales training or EOS stuff, trying to, get your business operating at a high level, I found that that's where my calling is to work with entrepreneurs, similar to what your calling is, Cory. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now. Whoa, man, that is so awesome.
That was the fast version.
Wow, what a story, man. That is so amazing. And as I'm listening, I'm really just drawn in. One, I want you to know you're a great storyteller. Like everybody's got a story, right? Everybody, but not a lot of people know how to tell their story. You do a great job of articulating your story. I know you did it to the fast, but man, great job.
I have a lot of practice. So it's not that I just came out of the womb I remember I was scared to death. You can ask Brittany. I remember I said, man, like nobody knows my story. Like literally only my immediate family, like my mother, my two sisters, like very few people knew my real story.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the first time I shared that with my team at Big Fish Contracting. And then I remember going on a podcast with a fellow named Dmitry Lipinski, who has a big roofing YouTube channel. And he's got thousands and thousands of listeners of contractors. And I was like, well, here we go. Like, I'm going to let it rip. And I tell you what, man, you're always worried about sharing your story because you're worried about what people will think or how people are going to judge you.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never gotten one person to ever say anything bad about it ever. It's incredible. Like it's just the exact opposite. And I know that takes a leap of faith and sometimes that's not for everybody, but I would encourage everybody to start, even share their story with one human being, somebody that they trust and somebody that they love. And take it from there and see how it goes and then do it again. And then just go wherever God tells you.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. And it's just as I listen to your story, I can hear the Lord just with you the whole way right there. Right. I would love to hear really like that turning point moment for you. I know you briefly spoke about it right there. You're at the golf course, you get a call from your sister, but even within that, was there a turning point where it's like, you know what, I'm never going back to the drugs again? And where the identity shifted, like something clicked with you. Was there something in there where that piece?
I would say that probably happened even a year before that for the identity. I think when I read the book Rocket Fuel.
Okay.
Right. And when Gino Wickman talks about it, the first chapter about all the traits of a visionary. And for the first time in my life, I felt like someone seen me, someone recognized me for all my superpowers. And yes, there's a lot of blind spots and there's a lot of things that I'm not great at, but that's okay because now I just need to surround myself with people who have those strengths, right? And I never knew that before. I just knew like I'm going to try to hard work and strong arm my way to success because that's the only way I've ever seen it modeled. But like, everyone in my life, except for my uncle, was an employee.
Yeah.
Just working hard, right? Like putting in the hours, right? Like, my stepdad worked in a steel mill. My mom worked in a hospital, man. Like they just showed up every single day. They're awesome people. They just show up. They do what they say they're going to do. They show up, they put their time in, and they just work hard. Well, that only can take you so long when you're a driven entrepreneur, because with that type of mentality, you will literally burn out. You will self-destruct. You will self-sabotage. And there's a book called Driven by Dr. Douglas Brackman that I've read. And that also was able to help me understand the science and like the spirituality that kind of mixed together to kind of help me understand who I was a little bit better. Because I believe one of the key things that anybody's going to do in their life, especially an entrepreneur, is figuring out who they really are inside. Mm-hmm. And then understanding who they are and being unapologetic about it and living life to the fullest, because God created us all as unique human beings designed for unique and purposeful things. And we just got to figure out what they are. But the world kind of like muddies that up, right? We have to build all this like armor and these shields and things like that to kind of like protect ourselves, right? Because our brain wants to protect ourselves. And so usually we grow up, and for the next, the first 20 years, if we don't have a really cool, friendly environment to be able to do that in, we're going to build up some crazy walls, which actually help us hit that stride of success because we plow through it. The driven plow through that. Now, not everybody's driven, and sometimes those people, they don't have the same gifts that maybe like me or you have, or maybe some of the people listening right now, and that's okay too. We have to be understanding of that. And then have empathy to be able to help other people, even though they're not wired like us. But I believe that the few that are chosen to be wired like this are the ones that can impact the most amount of people. And I think it's our duty now to like just help other driven people to not die young and not fulfill their true purpose. Because I was 37 years old, 38 years old when that overdose happened. 37 years old, yeah. And so like most guys, most people are getting taken out. Before they even live their full potential. Yeah. I'm just still now just starting to figure out a little bit about how to live life. And I'm 42 and a half years old. And so, and for the last 3 years, I've been, knee deep in spirituality and mindfulness, how to be who I am, how to be just more authentic, not to have to worry about what everybody else is going to say about you and do, just go be you, and the right people will be attracted, the wrong people will be repelled, and that's okay. And everything's happening in seasons of life. It's just because somebody's repelled for you right now doesn't mean that if you stay consistent and congruent with your alignment for living out your faith and your values, that maybe 3 years from down the road, that person that was once repelled may be attracted now because they're searching for something. And so then I realized, man, it is my duty to live a consistent life, right? And there's those things I struggle with. I struggle with my addiction to food, right? And my ability to not figure out how to make time for exercise because I always thought it was boring, and I always thought it was not efficient use of time and all this other stuff. And that's the one thing that I'm really still struggling with. I feel like, spiritually, I feel like, I'm doing better than I ever have been. I feel like it's a spectrum, I feel like if there's 100 and there's 0, I feel like I'm always at 50, and I'm always just, trying to get closer to God. And then also I think my relationships are at probably an all-time high. Not with every single person in my life, because there are some people from the past that I really love and care about. That sometimes they don't know this Benny. They don't recognize this Benny. They don't know this Benny. This Benny is uncomfortable for them, and that's something I'm still struggling with on how to not get stuck in the past and not get stuck in the muck, but still be there for people and try to create boundaries and try to create space. And so I'm still navigating some of that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's powerful. I love, and I could hear in the beginning of your story, it's man, that's an identity thing right there, right? Because once we understand our real identity, we can start living from that place instead of working for it. And when we don't understand that, we're really trying to get approval from everybody else. And so, man, I love that you said that. Something else I thought about there. I heard this guy say one time he had a story where he came up, and the people in his past. He met a guy from his past and he said, "Hey, do you still do?" He's like, "No, no, I don't do that anymore." "Do you still hang out with?" "No, no, I don't hang out with them anymore." "Do you still like to?" He's like, "No, no, no." He said, "Well, what do you do now?" He said, "Well, that old person, that person's dead. That person right there, they no longer, I'm this new person." Right. And like you said, they didn't really know this Benny. They didn't really know this side of that. So that's a powerful thing. I would like to kind of shift gears a little bit. Actually, man, what you just said, I think super powerful, and I hope really listening into that. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who've even thought about doing a business. There's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that, man, they're in that grind. It's like a 9 to 5 every day, and even sometimes overtime, and even on the weekends. And they're like, "Man, I wish I could just have my time back." You said something in your story. I only work about 2 hours per month, and I know it piqued some interest. And it's like, how in the world does he have a successful business, get to do some of the things that he wants to do, and only spend about 2 hours on his business? And any advice, any thoughts that you could give to somebody who may be in that situation?
Well, I mean, again, you're gonna hear me say it again, and I might be like a fanboy, but Gino Wickman's teachings in the book called Traction. I know you mentioned that you're going through that with some of your guys. Rocket fuel first, right? That's when you're that entrepreneur that needs that sidekick to help you, right? So you find your integrator. But then the book Traction is going to teach you the 6 core principles of EOS: vision, people, data, issues, process, and then traction, and being able to get all of those pieces of your business up to an optimal level. So then that way that your business doesn't need you, because I think it's the ultimate test is that if you should be able to go away for 30 days, no cell phone, no internet connection, go have fun with your wife and kids or whatever you're into doing, and then come back. But do that first, like mentally, and like simulate what that would look like, and just be real with yourself. Remember all the times that you have to be the one to solve the problem. Remember all the times that you have to put this fire out, all the times that you have to press the button on the computer to make something happen, right? All those things, and if you need to figure out a way to delegate and elevate if you want to be able to be the true entrepreneur of your life. And see, that's what I care about. I want to be the entrepreneur of my life. There's a good chance, Cory, that I'm going to sell my business one day. I may not even sell it all. I may just like take a minority ownership of my own company. And guess what? I may go work for somebody else, and people are going to be like, "How could you do that, man?" Because guess what? Together, we can make a bigger difference. And if there's somebody that's got a bigger vision than me, man, and I want to latch onto that vision, guess what? We're going to latch on, man, and we're going to go.
Yeah.
Because there's no way. I already know from the life that I've lived and the things that I've tried to do that I can't do it all by myself anyway. Mm-hmm. And like, who am I anyway? Like, again, at the end of the day, it's going to be all of God's power anyway. And again, his people are all part of the power. And I'm a firm believer that I only got to be in that number one spot from like an accountability chart point of view. Like, I don't think I'm number one, but like from somebody might say CEO or owner, like, dude, I got there from a lack. I got there from, needing to be approved and trying to prove people wrong. And like, that's the only way I ever got there. That's not the way I want to continue to be there. Now, if God blesses me and that's what God wants for my life. And somehow, if I'm with 5 other successful business people and they say, "Hey, let's start a business," and, "Hey, Big Fish, and we want you to be the guy," I'll try to talk all of them out of it. But if I feel the calling, sure. But like, I don't feel the calling right now. Like there ain't nothing wrong with being the number 2, the number 3, the number 10, the number 20, the number 100. Because here's where I'm in charge of. I'm in charge of my life. I'm in charge of Benny Fisher, the social security number, ... That's who I'm in charge of, right? I can only control me. I can't control my wife, can't control my kids. I can't control my ex-wife. I can't control my business partners. I can't control my employees. I can't control my customers. I can't control what you're going to say next. So guess what? I'm just going to keep being me and let go. This is a funny one. This is probably cliche, but I'm going to let go and let God.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's good stuff.
You didn't know you were going to get this today, did you, Cory?
You know what? I had no idea what we were going to get, but I knew you stood out to me for a reason. You speaking my language, though, so I'm all in.
That's that Baptist coming back out of me, man.
Yeah. Well, for those that listen to the podcast, they know my background is Baptist too. So I
Maybe
know.
that's why I stuck out somehow. Like, yeah, I call it reform. I'm a Reformed Baptist now.
I like it. I like it. You mentioned the book Traction, and before we got on, we were talking about that. We have a men's mastermind group. We've been going through that actually probably for the last 2 weeks, and we've been really going through it slowly because I like what it talks about. If you really are thinking about being a entrepreneur, doing your own thing, and all that kind of good stuff, getting crystal clear on your values and your vision. And man, it's taken us through this process to get super clear. Benny, one of the things that really hit me, man, I've been an entrepreneur since 2011, maybe 2010, 2011. Something that is said in the book that it just kind of hit me between the eyes. I should have known by now, is that he's like, your business and you have to be separate entities. And I think for the longest time, I've treated my business and myself as one entity, right? And you said it, go away for 30 days and see how your business is. And when we sold our first business, we were in the physical therapy world. We were seeing about 130 visits per week. I know that doesn't mean anything to anybody. But once we sold, it dipped to around 70. And I started realizing that, you know what? The business was built upon me. It was built upon what I could do. I hadn't developed any leaders. I hadn't empowered anybody. I hadn't developed systems and processes or a leadership team that could carry this on. And one of the things we talk about in leadership is you want to see how good of a leader you are, is see how well the organization is or the people are after you go. That's how you can tell how good of an actual leader you are and bringing out the best in people and creating something. So
I got a
anyway,
question. Can I ask you a question?
whoa, hey, I'm the question after. No, go for it, Benny.
So the person that bought your business, obviously you knew that the business went down because I'm sure you guys talked. I'm sure you had to like stay on as a consultant or something for the business, right? I don't know what the exact arrangements were, but how did that person feel, or how did you feel like when that happened to the new owner? And what did you guys do about it? How were you able to resolve that, or was there any ill feelings or anything like that?
Yeah, no, that's great. So this business owner, so we live in Mississippi. He lives in California. So he
He was
never
going to be an absentee business owner.
absentee business owner. So
Oh,
he put a consultant group in place, and they are now doing well now. But there was a shift from a very personal interaction to more of a corporate kind of
yeah.
feel.
Yep.
And that's kind of what had dipped. I think they've come back now.
Yeah,
But
no, that's cool. That's good to know because a lot of so that's the other thing too. That's how you make your business worth a little bit more money too. Is like, and
absolutely.
again, through the challenges I had in my life, through going through the divorce, right? When I got divorced in 2020, and we had to split up the assets like that, I realized, my attorney and my accountant go to me like, Benny, your business isn't worth, like, you make more money in a year than your business is actually worth, because like, if you died tomorrow, like, it's literally worth nothing. Your customers aren't, because I was still the number one salesman in my own company in 2020. And so the customers would like not buy roofs, right? Your employees like wouldn't have a leader. They wouldn't even know, like they'd eventually like fizzle out. Like they probably would come to work for a couple of weeks trying to figure it out. But as soon as like the going got tough, like everybody would go find a real job. And I'm like, wow. And I said, that's so interesting because I didn't know that before. I was like, "Oh man, my business is great, man. I'm making all kinds of money. Like it's gonna." And boy, that was a wake up call. And then because of that, after I read the book Rocket Fuel and I took on this integrator, the guy that I got, he wanted equity in the business, and I'm like, because he wanted to leave his he had a high paying job, man. He was making well over 200 grand a year, and I was like, how am I going to talk him into coming to my small little company that's got some problems? Well, equity was the name of the game, and so I sold him a piece of my company, and then I realized, all right, we got to build this thing, and then I had that identity thing. Like, are you familiar with Jamie Winship?
Uh-uh, uh-uh.
Jamie Winship, good Christian man, teaches transformational leadership and identity exchange and things like that. But I realized because I had a
I
cool.
think I do. He talks a lot about identity, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's all. That's his whole thing. He was a former like CIA, FBI, like,
Yeah. Oh
yeah, dude,
yeah.
he's
I watched
amazing.
him.
Yeah, I met him in person, dude. He's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
See if you can get him on your podcast. I want to get him on mine. But
Yeah.
anyway, when you start a company, right? Like, my company's called Big Fish, contracting, right? My last name's Fisher. I'm not smoking. Everyone knows I'm the big fish, right? Well, I used to put a cartoon face of myself up on billboards and customers because, you know, people buy off of who they know, like, and trust. Well, there was this thing all of a sudden. I'm like, man, like if I don't remove myself from the business, people are going to keep coming to me constantly, and I'm never going to be able to be free.
Yeah.
And I learned that, you know, four years ago, and I started to then peel it back. And I just started delegating and letting go every quarter for like the last 3 or 4 years, you know, and I took my face off the billboards. I took my face off the vans. I just have the fish now. Right. So it's just a symbol. Right. And then I just started letting more people take over. I let more people handle sales. Like, and I don't sell. I haven't sold, you know, I sold a commercial roof to a buddy of mine from out of state, but that doesn't count because I'm talking the day-to-day in Pittsburgh. You can't find me. Yeah. And I'm proud of that in one respect. Now, part of me, it's hard for other people to understand that, especially even local consumers. They're like, they want that small business owner that's always there. Like it's like almost like they crave that, but then they don't realize how powerful it is because their customer service that they're getting is even better. Because if I was strung out with 100 people, I couldn't take care of 100 people that good. But if I have 10 people taking care of 100 people, like it's much easier, right? And so, yeah, there's just interesting dynamics everywhere. I just try to learn, like, hey, I got to do what's best for Benny's life, and how can Benny make the best impact. And right now, I believe I'm in that sweet spot of life where, like, hey, I'm just, you know, I'm helping build this contracting marketing education firm at Contractor Dynamics. We have a mastermind for contractors. That's a small group. It's a weekly thing that we do, and we do Zoom calls every week, and then we also do in-person meetups, like at conferences and events. Sometimes we have a random pop-up meeting, and we'll invite people out. And so I've had a lot of fun doing that. Sounds like similar to something that maybe you're up to. And it's just for home improvement contractors, right? So we try to stay really niche in that space as well. But yeah, man, I'm having a blast. Like, and I have a little baby at home. I have a 10-year-old. I just moved into the school district where his mom lives. So like now he can get off the bus at my house. And so everything's jiving, man.
Yeah, I like that. One last thing I wanted to call attention to, and really, you talked about making your business more valuable. Like you had mentioned, like if something happened to you, your business wasn't worth more than you were paying yourself. For us, when the reason I'm saying this is because some of you are actually in your business, and you're looking for that that end game, right? Keeping the end in mind. What does it look like if I were to sell or something like that? And we were having our business, I was all in it, had our face on everything, right? Well, the multiple, you sell your business based on a multiple, and our multiple that we were able to sell on is like a 3 or a 4, something like that. But if we had done kind of what Benny has as a system and process in place, kind of hands off, our business could have sold at a multiple of 7, 8, maybe even 9. And so
yeah,
you've gotten a multiplier.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at now. We're in that 7 to 9 range right now.
Yeah, that's powerful. Well, Benny, man, I've truly enjoyed you coming on. You've added a ton of value to me. I know you've added a ton of value to the listeners there. And if somebody is looking like, man, how do I get in touch with Benny or listen to his podcast or whatever you've got going on, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, Benny?
So they can reach out to bennyfisher.com. On there, you'll see the podcast on there. You'll see the mastermind that I was talking about, the arena. You can book me to be a speaker. I also have a content team. I do executive coaching. So if you're looking to install a really awesome operating system in your business, I can help you with that. And I just started doing a one-on-one program. Not sure if I like it or not, because like it trades a lot of hours for dollars, but I'm experiencing. I think I'm going to open it up to like 3 or 4 people. As long as they're willing to do it early in the morning, like when I'm up getting my walk on, right? And so like, you know, because you can ask questions, I can give you answers, and I can save you freaking probably millions of dollars of pain along the way. So
yeah, man, that's powerful. Well, guys, I know Benny has added value to you. If there's something that stood out to you or something he shared that you love, comment below. We'll pass that along to him or reach out to him directly. And make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on any of the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. We hope you guys have a great day, and God bless.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.